the stranger in the mirror. Ethan moved into an old, abandoned house on the outskirts of town, unaware that he was making the biggest mistake of his life. The place was dirt cheap, and the previous owner had seemed oddly desperate to get rid of it. But Ethan didn't care. He wanted peace and solitude. The house still had some old furniture covered with dust and sheets, but the most striking piece was the massive mirror standing right across from the bed in the master bedroom. Its frame was tarnished, and the glass had a cloudy, eerie look. As Ethan stared into it, an uneasy feeling crawled up his spine. It felt off, like the reflection wasn't entirely his. The first night went by without incident, but in the early hours of the morning, he woke up to a faint tapping sound. His eyes drifted to the mirror. His reflection was sitting up in bed while he was still lying down. His blood ran cold. The reflection's eyes were vacant, its skin pale. Ethan blinked rapidly, and suddenly the reflection was normal again. Just a dream, he muttered to himself, trying to shake off the lingering fear. But the next night, it happened again, only this time the reflection smirked at him. It was an awful grin to white, to knowing. The reflection tilted its head, hands resting on its knees, and opened its mouth. No sound came out, but Ethan could feel it speaking to him. Panicking, he threw a bedsheet over the mirror. That night, the whispering began. "Ethan, Ethan, let me in." The voice slithered into his ears like a snake. He clenched his eyes shut, covered his ears, and curled up under the blankets. But the whispers didn't stop until morning. The next day, he decided to remove the mirror, but no matter how hard he tried, it wouldn't budge. It was like it was rooted in place. Then his reflection moved again. This time it stood up on its own. It no longer mimicked him. It locked eyes with Ethan and slowly grinned. Then it started walking toward him. Ethan bolted out of the room, but as he ran through the house, mirrors started appearing everywhere. In the bathroom, the kitchen, the hallway, and in every mirror, his reflection was coming for him. By the time he reached the front door, a giant mirror materialized above it. His reflection leaned in close and whispered in his ear, "You can't leave." The door slammed shut, and at that moment, the reflections stepped out of the mirrors. The next morning, Ethan was gone. But if you looked into the mirrors, you could see him, trapped inside, screaming, and outside, a man who looked like Ethan walked freely under the sun, but he wasn't Ethan anymore.